everyone, and welcome to the Culture Cast. I'm Chris Stashew, and I am joined by everyone's favorite cannibalistic snake man, Mr. Eric Niss.
I never get used to the cold open name action. It's always something weird, and I never know what to do afterwards. Hi, yeah, I'm here. I'm trying to stop swallowing little girl's whole, but that came out wrong. Anyways, let's move on.
Okay, that's fun. We are also joined by Jess Byard, filmmaker and writer for various movie websites, including Blumhouse and Bloody Disgusting, and I believe also an award winner as of this previous weekend.
Yes, that is true. My partner in crime and I, as far as creating goes, won Best Ohio. We are from Ohio, so that is where I am currently. Best Ohio film at the Nightmares Film Festival in Columbus this past weekend for our short that I wrote and she directed and animated. It's a stop motion animation. So we were totally blown away, not prepared for that at all, but it was awesome. And I guess this is what peaking is like, so I will enjoy it as long as it's available to me, and we'll see.
The question is how many other stop-motion horror shorts were there? And the answer
So there was one.
Yeah, one. So there you go. So you're doing God's work as far as I'm concerned.
Exactly. And it wasn't even me animating. I can't do that shit at all. Maggie did... I think she clocked about 606 hours for over a year of filmmaking and just animating a 3-minute short.
Jeez.
That's like those people that do like cross stitching and they're on Reddit and they're like my nan made this for me. It took her 20 years, and you're just like, holy fuck, what?
Right. It took her your entire life. It was the only thing she ever did.
Yeah, that's the same thing. It's like 600 hours to animate this. Oh my god! But it paid off. That's all that matters, right?
Exactly, it did. It was fantastic. It was, and now I just want to get back into production. So.
And you know what? I can guarantee you that your short film was better than the film we're going to be talking about. We're going to be talking about The Taking of Deborah-Logan. This is one of Eric's suggestions, so
they can't all be good. That's what I gotta say. They can't all be home runs.
73 Apple, take one, Mark.
The story of Alzheimer's is never about one person. My PhD I'm gonna start again.
You want to keep the house? You need to sacrifice.
You talk to me about sacrifice?
Hey. Hi.
Ma! They want to make a movie about this.
Yes. We will live and document our subjects' physical and mental degradation over the course of 2 one-month periods.
We're gonna have fun, right?
Yeah.
Okay, good. I'm not interested in being exploited.
Sarah mentioned that Deb's been sleepwalking pretty bad. So let's set up surveillance cams. He really gave us all quite a fright with your late-night gardening.
This is not normal sleepwalking. You should come see this. It's not good, Doc. Do you remember a man named Henri Desjardins? Went missing 30 years ago.
I tried to wash you in the river, you know.
How lot you become.
That woman is crazy.
The notion of spiritual parasites does exist.
Okay. She's gonna die.
So the film is directed by Adam Robitel, written by Adam Robitel and Gavin Heffernan, stars Jill Larson, Anne Ramsey, and Michelle Ang. The film centers around a student who is being filmed by a film crew. Jesus Christ, I fucked that up. An elderly woman who's being filmed by a student film crew for her thesis, and she's battling Alzheimer's, but possibly more. The film's also produced by Bryan Singer, so
Oh, yay. I saw that.
Yeah. From one of the producers of X-Men. Is it the one who touches little children? Because
sure is.
Yeah, look great. So, Jess, since this is your first time in the Culture Cast, what did you think of this mess of a movie?
Yeah, so I watched it twice now. I watched it again for a refresher, and yeah, it still makes the least amount of sense as it did when I first watched it. And the thing is that this movie is unreasonably hard to track down. It's like you can't buy it on DVD, you can't do anything. Like I actually ended up buying it on YouTube on accident, which is unfortunate.
Oh, no. Sounds like Eric buying Batman versus Superman when he was drunk.
You know what, though? I would much rather accidentally buy this movie than Batman versus Superman.
That's fair. That is fair. At least it's not 4 hours long.
Ugh.
But yeah, no. The other thing about this is I had heard nothing but good things about this movie until I'd watched it. Like when it first came out when did this come out? 2014?
2014, yeah.
Yeah. I heard that it was kind of like it was, like this sort of sleeper hit on Netflix, and I thought I had watched it before, but then when I thought I was rewatching it for this podcast, I was like, no, I definitely would have remembered this strange kind of possession, weird, not demon movie.
Why be something easy like a demon when it's a cannibal snake man, voodoo doctor,
pedophile,
blood ritual?
Well,
I guess.
Yeah.
That's all of the things that they cover, and none of them make any amount of sense.
Well, he's French, so voodoo.
Oh, okay. Is that how that works?
Yeah. I mean, I don't know.
So you didn't like it, is what you're saying?
No, I was not.
What about you, Eric? Since, you're the reason we watched this movie. Some of us for the first time, some of us for the second time.
I will not apologize. I remembered watching this movie, and I remembered kind of liking it, and then I watched it again twice recently when we were going to talk about it again, and I couldn't for the life of me figure out why I remembered liking this movie until this one scene happens that's just completely insane and batshit crazy and literally comes like out of nowhere for seemingly no reason at all. And then if you spend some brain power after the fact and try to put things together that were not put together very well in the movie, it sort of makes sense. I don't know. This movie is very I actually kind of like the first half of this movie, and then it just kind of veers off into this really weird area where it just becomes very messy. And I think the whole reason that it's this weird mess is so that they could do this one scene. And we could talk about it later, but it's that's the scene in this movie. That's probably, anybody's ever seen this movie, that's the thing that they remember.
Mm-hmm.
What scene are we talking about? I'm being serious. Are we talking about the scene where she swallows someone like a snake?
Yeah.
Yeah, like the little girl with eating the little girl.
Yeah, because that shit was really stupid. I was reading a bunch of reviews that were like, this one scene is super crazy, and once the movie was over, I was like, are they talking about the thing with the snake? Because I saw that in Nightmare on Elm Street Dream Warriors.
But it was a lot more fun in Dream Warriors.
Yeah, much better movie made by, again, someone who doesn't touch little children. Again, that's the last Bryan Singer joke. But
it won't be.
And it is, actually, because this movie has tons of problems without the sweet, soft, supple, lotioned hands of Bryan Singer.
See, told you it wouldn't be the last one.
Yeah, right. The issue with this movie is it falls into every single trap that found footage kind of is known for.
Aside from the shaky cam. I will say that it is remarkably steady.
Until the third act, until the last 10 minutes of the movie, where the movie's like, that thing that you hate about found footage movies? Here it comes. Yeah, here it is. Quick cuts, and you can't see anything, and it's super dark, and you can't tell what's going on, because that's super cool.
There's no payoff at all.
Yeah, welcome to found footage, folks. I'm surprised at the beginning it wasn't like, this footage was found in an abandoned mill somewhere. We don't know how it got here. Like, okay, we're just par for the course at this point. It did have a title card, though. So
it did have a title card,
and that's something we talked about on the Ghost Watch podcast, where it's like, Sometimes you don't need a title card to be successful, and this movie just fell into every trap. You've got, and you guys will probably appreciate this reference, you have fake Lin Shaye, who's just okay as an actress in this movie. You have Jill Larson, who is given the reins of the movie, and like Eric said, the first half of the movie is okay, but then the second half of the movie, it just completely falls apart because you don't get to see enough of her performance, and she's the best part of this movie.
Well, and I think that it's interesting as far as, the first half of the movie is a very standard, like you said, it's okay. It's a very standard found footage setup. The crew comes in, meets the characters. Oh, hey, we're doing this documentary about Alzheimer's. And I was thinking to myself, it's interesting that, the whole purpose of found footage is to kind of make it seem more realistic, right? It's supposed to be a more realistic scare. That's why it's supposed to be scarier, because it's going to happen to you. Look, it really happened to these people. But it's interesting to me that, in the 70s and 80s, the way that they, did certain exploitation movies to try and make them seem more realistic was amp them up and make them, as crazy and obscene as possible. And in found footage movies, and in particularly this one, the way that they try to make it more realistic is to make it as mundane as humanly possible. Like, going to the doctor's office and talking to these doctors about brain scans is just, why is that even in there at all?
Well, the movie had to be an hour and a half somehow.
That's
true. Another thing. Found footage movies should never really be more than, I would say 80 minutes.
Well, and the thing is if it's an hour and a half and it's successful, it's a truly exciting found footage film. Mm-hmm. It's something that really kind of goes out of its way to break the mold or do something interesting or kind of mixed medium with faux documentary and found footage. And this movie tries that, but then it just goes back to the cheap shit that makes reality horror films so one note.
Right.
And that's, I think, again, when we talk about a movie like The Taking of Deborah-Logan, you look at the way this movie is made, and it's almost like two different movies. The first half of the movie is very character-focused on the character of Deborah Logan, and then the second half is just complete stupidity, every single cheap trick in the reality horror movie book being thrown at the wall and seeing what sticks.
It also gets there really, for a movie that is too long and feels too long, it does kind of seem to skip the second act, and that you just, you're more focused on the characters in the beginning, and then it kind of just all of a sudden switches to where Deborah Logan has, she's just crumbled and gotten sicker and sicker, just kind of all of a sudden. And it I felt like I was missing something. And you know what? Maybe I fell asleep and missed 5 minutes. I'm not sure. I can't say that I didn't do that. But it just seemed like it was okay, we're moving along. She's mostly okay. And then all of a sudden she's has to go stay in the hospital.
No, you did not miss anything.
Okay.
That's exactly what happens. It's one of these movies that doesn't seem to think it's important to give the characters a 3-part arc.
Right.
There's a 2-part arc, and it's characters becoming, or characters not crazy, then characters crazy. There's no becoming crazy. I mean, her character goes from 0 to 100. At one point, she's just kind of hey, kind of speaking in tongues, and then next scene, she's fucking stabbing someone and jumping up and down and doing all sorts of wacky shit. It's just did we, like you said, did we miss something here?
Exactly. It's just all of a sudden just turns on a dime.
Yeah.
And it feels cheap.
I think there's even a scene where the doctor shows up and she's devolving so quickly. I've never even seen it like this. I'm what? The movie even knows that shit is happening too fast.
It's called hanging a lantern on it.
Yeah. It's interesting.
Or it's just we're not going to do anything at all to try and explain this aside from throwing this one throwaway line to let the audience know that maybe something's not quite right.
Yeah, and that's really interesting to me, too, upon rewatching this movie. Sort of just noticing how the sort of secondary plot about how her and her neighbor murdered this dude or whatever 30 years ago or 40 years ago or whatever, and then buried him in their yard, and this is sort of his revenge, and all the stuff that actually explains to you what's really happening to her are these throwaway lines that mean nothing in compared to all the other stuff that we've been talking about. So it's we're focusing so much on her Alzheimer's and her being sick, which I actually think is a cool premise for a movie like this, because it's something where you can have like the debate about like possession versus mental illness. And, you know, that's something that you can actually take somewhere interesting that actually has like real world,
applications.
Real world applications and examples of, you know, studies that have been done, like actually. And they just decided, they're like, well, she's going to have Alzheimer's, but then this insane shit happens that has nothing to do with the fact that she has Alzheimer's, unless it's like, you know, one of those things where like, oh, she only got possessed because she has Alzheimer's, because like her mind is not as strong-willed as it used to be or something like that. Yeah. And I think that's just cheap, and you're not using your cool initial idea to its full potential because you had this other idea that you cared about more that wasn't as good.
Right. I think it's even kind of almost a bit of an insult to people, like people who suffer from Alzheimer's and family members that have to like care for them, that is a huge struggle. And that is something that probably is very scary. I thankfully don't have experience it with them in my own family, but I know people who do, and it's a scary experience, and they do feel like that person is like turning into something that, you know, that they don't know, that they can't understand or they can't control, or it just seems like it would have been such a much more interesting character piece and sort of character-driven horror if you actually examined that relationship between Jill Larson and I'm blanking on the actress's name.
Lynn Shay.
Yes, Fake Lynn Shay, who plays her daughter, which is actually, I read in the trivia that the daughter is actually 7 years older than Jill Larson. So there's that.
I said that when I was watching the movie to my wife. I was like, I'm pretty sure that actress is older than her mom.
Yeah, she is. She's like 7 years older. But going back to my other point is that they could have like amplified the horror and actually made you care about these characters if they focused on the actual relationship and the kind of devolvement of a relationship when it's affected by something so, you know, catastrophically mind-altering like Alzheimer's. But no, they're just like, well, we're just going to say she has Alzheimer's because that'll explain why her, you know, she's not remembering things and doing things weirdly.
And that's why she becomes a snake.
For some reason.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. Like you guys are talking about, you know, it makes no sense to me because the character development between the two of them, it seems like they're building it. You have this whole scene where Fake Lynn Shay is like, oh, you know, I'm gay. My mom found out and sent me away to boarding school. It's like, okay, so this is, you know, a relationship that's been on the rocks and there's a lot of resentment here. And then it just, fuck it, who cares? Why would let's just sow the seeds of something interesting and then just, fuck it, it's not important. Stupid. This is stupid to give us characters we should care about.
And it's giving you characters like with these things that would be like really worth talking about and exploring, like, you know, a mother-daughter relationship affected by Alzheimer's and also affected by years of, you know, obvious maybe emotional abuse or emotional detachment because of sexuality. And now, you know, she's faced with this, well, now I have to take care of her because she's my mom. But no, we plant all those seeds and we do fucking nothing with them.
But she becomes a snake, so...
Right.
So that's what... I mean, we get to see a scene at the end of the movie where a actress with CGI swallows a smaller actress. Wow. How awesome. What a great film.
Can we just talk about the a child's hair and that, like, I realize she's supposed to be a cancer patient, but holy shit, yeah, wow, that is a whole Halloween store nightmare is what that is.
This whole movie is a whole Halloween store nightmare because Jill Larson, who is a beautiful woman at the beginning of the film, they just start making her look ridiculous. It's like, there's a line that you should tread when you're trying to make a character look emaciated. And they go so far in one direction that it's like, so she's being possessed but not possessed because it's a snake monster, but it's not a snake monster. It's this doctor who is obsessed with snake monsters. So like, I just didn't understand what they were going for other than let's make her look emaciated. And even then it's just similar to the child actress where it's like, let's just make her hairline look like it's farther back. Okay.
Yeah, I think it's just like this is, what's scary to make, what do sick people look like? Oh, sick people usually look like skeletal and skinny, so let's do that. That'll be scary. And even if that is the case, which it's not, but let's entertain the idea that it is scary for a moment. It's not like you can even see it half the time anyway, because the only real scary part that ever does anything with her emaciation is when, the cliche scene of going up into the attic and finding her sitting at that, desk or whatever the hell it is, naked and her spine is jutting out of her back like she's, some kind of Clive Barker creation. But
like a snake monster?
It's like a snake monster. With, because snake monsters are notorious for all of their bones.
Right. I like the whole mythology, I guess the C plot or the mythos of the film is, it's so dorky because it feels like it's...
that wanted to be the A plot.
it feels dorky because they don't give it any time to breathe, and then they have a character just exposition dump how it ties into the main storyline.
Yeah.
You were his fifth victim. We killed him. It's like, oh my God, like, what? Okay, so Adam Robitel went to USC Film School. Mm-hmm. Did he learn anything? Because any one of us would be able to figure out a way to better incorporate a C plot into an A plot, as seen by the 1/3 of the people talking right now winning an award for something they did. So I'm just saying here that 1/3 of this group of people talking right now understands how to write something. Adam Robitel, who has written 2 other films, and they are Insidious: The Last Key, which is not good, and Paranormal Activity, The Ghost Dimension, which I saw the first Paranormal Activity. I stopped giving a shit after the first one.
Which one is The Ghost Dimension?
Was
is that the last one?
I don't know.
Okay.
I thought I had seen all of them, but maybe I hadn't.
I think it is the last one. Yeah, that one's a big pile of shit. The Mexican one was actually really good for a Paranormal Activity movie.
I stopped watching after the first one because I didn't like the first one. I thought it was everything that's wrong with found footage or reality horror. And now Adam Robitel is writing and directing a film. I guess he's not writing it. He is directing a film called Escape Room, about an escape room that kills people.
I just saw the trailer for that, and I was like, well, I've seen the movie now, so I don't need to go see it.
Right. It's essentially Saw, basically, would be like, I mean, that's really it's an escape room. Okay, so all Saw movies are a giant escape room. Like,
so much so that in Las Vegas, they have a Saw escape room. So
wow. Okay. Well,
wow.
I mean, speaking of movies that, just continued to get worse.
Yeah, right. Where's the Taking of Deborah-Logan 2 so we could see the sequel to the shitty movie? And that's the thing. They have a stinger at the end of this movie. Like anyone fucking cares.
They have the creepy little girl stinger at the end of the movie where she does the knowing creepy smile into the camera that lingers too long.
I guess I'm the snake monster now. I don't know.
There's no reason for that. Like, come on.
It's called a stinger because they're going to make a sequel, The Taking of Deborah-Logan 2.
This time, Deborah's pissed.
Snakes on a Deborah.
I'm tired of these motherfucking snakes on this motherfucking old women. It's just like a retirement home, just filled with snake monsters. I would see that movie.
I would definitely see that movie.
The way the film wraps up makes no sense because it completely abandons the A plot.
Yeah. It's a shame. It's one of those movies that has a cool setup, but then you find out what the actual setup is, and then you're like, well, that's stupid.
So kind of like Hereditary.
I respectfully disagree with you.
I also respectfully disagree with you.
But as much as I wasn't a huge fan of Hereditary, you guys cannot cannot deny that there are shades of Hereditary in this movie.
I can see a little bit of it as far as like the mother-daughter relationship goes, and that strained, like sort of like my mom was into something that I'm not really aware of, and now I kind of have to deal with it. So I do see where you're coming from, but would you rather watch Hereditary or Taking of Deborah-Logan again?
I'd rather have Rutger Hauer pierce my eyeballs out of my skull with his bare hands is what I'd rather have done than watch either one of them. Right?
Well, just have Rutger Hauer just go full-on hobo with a shotgun on your ass and just fucking...
That too. God, why didn't we watch that movie? Oh, wait, because it's not found footage.
Yeah, we can do that next month.
What a disappointment, because Hobo with a Shotgun is a great film.
It is. It's a fantastic
Canadian
film.
classic. Oh, God. Well, let's take a quick break, and when we get back, we'll finish up trashing this movie.
Have a hunger for horror? A yen for yelp yarns? Then give your blood-curdled bones a boon and tune in to Chronicles from the Crypt. Join sordid slime slingers Casualty Chris and Father Malone as they take on HBO's groundbreaking television series Tales from the Crypt. Here's what the rotting and rancid rabble are saying about Chronicles from the Crypt. Tune in to Chronicles from the Crypt. You have nothing to lose except your life.
Who is Carl Kolchak?
He's a reporter.
Now that is news, Vincenzo. News! And we are a news paper. We are supposed to print news, not suppress it.
With the INS.
What's an INS?
Independent news service, sir, founded in 1904 by Enrico Paluzzi.
Who seems to have a nose for the strange and unusual.
Well, last year in Las Vegas, I uncovered a series of murders that turned out to have been committed by a vampire.
And what is the Kolchak Tapes?
It's a podcast.
All about Carl Kolchak.
What's a Kolchak?
The Night Stalker.
And where can you get it?
On iTunes, Stitcher Radio, and at www.kolchaktapes.com.
As foolish a game as any that Gory the Ghoul could make up.
Here's what some people are saying about the Projection Booth podcast.
Week after week, I'm mesmerized by the focus given great films and questionable films alike. But every episode is a learning and entertaining experience.
This is hands down the best movie podcast. They cover so many different genres across so many years, from obscure movies to blockbusters.
If there's only one podcast about movies and cinema that you listen to, make it this one.
The Projection Booth Podcast, with new episodes available every week at projectionboothpodcast.com.
In 1985, a curious phenomenon occurred. The Twilight Zone returned to television, featuring all new tales of mystery and imagination from the minds of Ray Bradbury, Harlan Ellison, George R.R. Martin, and Stephen King. Dreams for Sale, the Twilight Zone 85 podcast looks back at that land of shadow and substance and re-examines the groundbreaking successor to Rod Serling's legacy. Featuring new interviews with the show's creators and cast, Dreams for Sale can be found on iTunes and at twilightzone85.com. Dreams for Sale. We'll be waiting for you in the Twilight Zone.
All right, so we are back, and we are talking about The Taking of Deborah-Logan. Jess, I'm curious, since we are talking about a bad reality horror, that's a term that Mike, I think, was championing on the Ghostwatch podcast. What is your favorite reality horror movie? And
so when
why?
you say reality horror, you mean like found footage, right?
Yeah, but Mike was taking umbrage with the term found footage because he referenced, I don't exactly know what movie he was talking about, but it was a movie where they actually used like footage that they found like in like dumpsters and like newsreels.
Oh, okay.
And things of that nature.
I get that. I see that. That's a good question. I mean, there are a couple that I can point out to. So most recently, the best ones that I've seen are the Creep movies. Creep 2, and is Creep 3 out? I'm
inevitably
not sure.
Creep 3 coming soon to a video on demand box near you.
Yes, somewhere in there. But that one, those two, I enjoy those. I as much as I'm not a fan of mumblecore in general, and Mark Duplass's mumblecore films in general, I do appreciate what he's doing in the horror genre. lately. So those two I liked. Going more in a foreign direction, Troll Hunter is fantastic.
Oh, Troll Hunter! Oh,
yes,
that just made me so happy.
Yeah, Troll Hunter is fantastic. That is a movie that uses just like that style of storytelling perfectly, and it uses the visual component to that perfectly, because while you're not always seeing everything entirely, you get to see enough of it, and you're not, sick, and you're not, trying to enhance the brightness on your screen to see it all. It works really well.
What's your least favorite found footage movie?
My least favorite found
That's
footage.
an even better question, because everybody has that one that sticks out.
I gotta say that I really don't like The Bay. So the Bay...
Nobody even saw that movie.
Yeah.
I saw it.
I know, but the three of us seeing it is not representative of the population.
That's fair. It's not at all, but it's not great. Don't see it. Doing one more, maybe more more seen would be The Devil Inside, which I think is just freaking hilarious that they even managed to get like that movie anywhere near Anthony Hopkins. I don't understand how that happened at all. Or am I confusing that with another devil movie?
No, yeah, that's a different one. You're combining.
You're talking about Last Rites, aren't you?
Oh shit, yeah, I am. I'm combining Last Rites and Devil Inside, because the Devil Inside is the one with the lady that pulls down her lips. It's like all like
that's the one with it's got like Michael Pena in it or something, and he's yeah, that's the one.
It's pretty terrible too.
I mean, they're both
movies are terrible.
Yeah, they're both bad. The Anthony Hopkins one.
That's why I'm combining them.
You know what? If they would have combined them, I would have watched the shit out of that. Michael Pena and Anthony Hopkins star in a semi-found footage double exorcism movie extravaganza. That sounds like the greatest thing I've ever seen.
Sounds like a more exciting movie than The Nun.
Oh.
The Nun, Eric's least favorite movie of the last however many years. The Nun
last,
we always use
30 years.
That's a lie. It's not the worst movie you've seen in theaters. You're a liar.
I don't know.
The worst movie you've seen in theaters was Halloween 2018.
That's not true. The Nun was worse.
The Nun was really bad.
That was the worst movie I've seen in a really long time. Anyways.
Oh, The Sacrament. That's a good newer found footage movie.
Ooh, yeah. I love that movie.
That's a great movie. I mean, you can't go wrong with the classics. Cannibal Holocaust. All of the cannibal exploitation movies.
I
technically
love Cannibal
count.
Holocaust, but it's just a bad movie. It's like such a boring
terrible.
Goddamn movie. It's so boring.
It is. The first 25 to 40 minutes of that movie are just mind-numbing.
Yeah,
it's like really the world's most boring 70s documentary.
Starring a porn star.
Yeah. Yeah, it's true.
Didn't even know that.
Yep.
Yeah, found footage, reality horror is so hit or miss, because you have something like Ghostwatch or WNUF Halloween Special that do it right. Mm-hmm. And then you have this being The Taking of Deborah-Logan that just does it, it's so generic. There's nothing, and that's the thing, I don't understand why this movie was being, like you said, Jess, why did anyone, get all excited about this?
I don't know. I think that it was primarily just on the sole idea that, in 2014, this movie came out, and pretty much a majority of the found footage movies that we were seeing around that time were just more Paranormal Activity sequels and, Paranormal Activity knockoffs. So I think that even just, the idea that this movie was maybe doing something a tad bit different as far as going with the Alzheimer's angle and hitting that sort of a different sort of found footage monster or reasoning was enough for people to kind of be like, oh, this is so refreshing, this is great. And I think if all those people went back and rewatched it now, 4 years later, and with all the great horror movies that are coming out in the indie spectrum now, I think they would their opinions would entirely shift.
Ain't It Cool News said it's found footage done right. One of the most effective entries in the popular subgenre. In what fucking universe?
Right.
Where?
I think you're right, Jess, that this movie came out at a perfect time where people were into found footage, but they wanted it to not suck so hard. And this movie just sucked less than the other ones. and it was different enough. And plus, it has this awesome snake monster scene.
I swear to fucking snake monster god.
Guys, I'm 100% certain that the only reason that this movie even exists is because of that snake monster scene. Like,
I mean, yeah, and that's the thing that people love.
The snake monster scene is such a worthless payoff, though.
I don't know. I watched it and I was like, what the fuck?
I mean, it is the most interesting thing in the movie. Like, that scene is the most interesting just because all you're watching up until then is just some people go to the doctor's office every once in a while, and an old lady is getting progressively skinnier, and that's all. So once that kind of like that weird visual just kind of happens for seemingly no reason out of the blue, it was at least surprising. And let's not forget there was another found footage movie that came out the same year, and that would be As Above, So Below, which is also equally confusing and dumb.
But in my opinion, a much better movie than this movie, yeah.
And I give As Above, So Below a pass because the Dowdles have done one of the greatest found footage horror movies ever, which is the Poughkeepsie tapes, which finally got a release last year on Blu-ray.
Yes.
Oh, yeah,
I
baby.
will go to bat for the Dowdles forever because of how much I love and because I gave them something they wanted, which was getting to interview the three of them for the Poughkeepsie tapes, so I'm a little biased.
That's nice.
But yes, As Above, So Below is not good either. It's just better than this.
I think they were just really trying to do something different with that. Like, the found footage was still popular, and I think 2014 was right at the beginning of this sort of indie horror boom, and the different takes on it weren't really coming out yet. So we were still in this weird, like, regurgitated found footage, whatever, where people are still, like, just trying to start to do something a little bit different. And I guess that's where you get those two entries. Thankfully, those were just test runs.
And Adam Robitel, it's not like he's gone on to do some really great, award-winning films either. That's the thing. I mean, he's gone on to make some, franchise horror films that, we talked about Insidious: Last Key earlier this year, and that movie is...
I didn't even see it. I haven't seen an Insidious movie since the second one because I was so pissed off at the second one, I just never went back for any more.
Yeah, you don't need to.
Those movies actually have Lynn Shay in them.
Yeah.
That's fair.
Yeah.
That's the other thing about this movie. The people that are cast in this movie that we do end up following, like Michelle Ang as the kind of the grad student, I guess, and like her friends that are there with her, they
don't matter.
Yeah.
They don't matter at all.
You know how little they matter? We're not even told what happens to them at the end of the movie.
I was going to say, does anybody really even die in this movie?
The sheriff who fake Lynn Shay is like with?
I guess. No, she can't be because she's a lesbian. Because she's talking to her.
But isn't that was the thing. I thought that the sheriff was who she was talking to.
No, I thought she was talking to her girl. Like I thought it was implied that she was talking to her like girlfriend who might be like.
Oh, I don't know.
Like that, because she said, "Oh no, I just had to tell her I had to move home for a couple months because I didn't have the balls to tell her what the truth was." Which I don't even understand because it's like, how can you not tell your significant? If you're with somebody and you can't tell your significant other, you got to go home to take care of your parent who has Alzheimer's, then you might want to reevaluate that relationship.
This movie didn't think too hard about any of the decisions that it made.
No, not at all. But I was just like, I don't even understand why you're saying that. What do you mean that you don't have the balls to tell your significant other what's going on? You can't tell them that your parent has a very common disease that happens to a lot of people. What?
So 2014 had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21 found footage films released.
No, it did not.
Yes,
how many did I see?
Oh my God, you got
Let's go down the list. So 2014 seems to be a year worth talking about. This is a side tangent we're talking about. Paranormal Activity, the marked ones, came out in January.
That was that was the Mexican edition, and actually that one was pretty enjoyable.
Devil's Due 2 came out in January as well. Have no idea what movie.
Did see that. Super boring. Don't need to see it again.
That one was another one of those like exorcism ones. Not good.
Blackwater Vampire.
Nope.
I don't know what that is.
Didn't see that one.
Well, it seems to be a horror film with a vampire on the cover. It looks quite stupid. Exists in March, which is the Bigfoot movie directed by none other than one half of the directors of the Blair Witch Project.
I did see that. That one was okay, if I remember correctly.
It's the lesser of the two Bigfoot found footage movies. The other
Which
one,
the other was
one?
Bobcat Goldthwait's, right?
Yeah,
Yes.
that one
was
way
good.
better.
Yeah.
The Den. I believe this is a...
It sounds familiar.
I watched this one. I don't remember anything about it except for that I watched it.
That was one of those that was kind of playing off the Unfriended, where it's like all told on computer screens. And it's like a chat roulette thing where it's like one of this woman's on chat roulette-esque thing and sees somebody tied up in a whatever. And
what about Afflicted?
Afflicted, I feel like that was another. What is that? Is that like a zombie something or other?
It's very similar to what was that other movie with the the STD one? Contracted.
Oh, Contracted.
It was like Contracted, but not good.
Not good. I enjoyed Contracted.
Contracted's great, but Afflicted was weird. That it had like a whole thing where he became like a vampire-y something or rather, and I don't know. Yeah.
So the next one is a comedy found footage film. So I guess it technically doesn't count. It seems to be a French foreign found footage film.
No idea.
The next one on the list is A Haunted House 2. Great.
No.
There was one that was called A Haunted House 1?
Yeah, it's the Wayans.
The Wayans Brothers parody thing.
Oh, yeah. Okay, didn't see that one.
Yeah, no.
The Sacrament came out in 2014.
Yeah, that was good.
Alien Abduction. Never even heard of it.
No idea.
I probably watched it because I watch every Alien movie that comes out, but I have no idea what it is.
Inner Demons, that's the one about it's kind of like the taking of Deborah-Logan, right? Where it's like she's like a drug addict who might be possessed by a demon as opposed to an Alzheimer's patient
who might be
possessed by a demon.
Oh, man.
Into the Storm? I mean, that doesn't really count, but that movie, oh, dear.
Oof.
Boy. Oof. The Possession of Michael King?
That one I feel like I saw. That was like in the long string of the Possession of string of movies for some reason.
It just seems like one of those made-for-TV, like, Hallmark movies.
Yeah.
As Above, So Below came out in 2014, but we already talked about that. Gore, Quebec?
Oh, yeah, Canada.
Right. The Taking of Deborah-Logan, obviously. Then we've got Hangar 10. I mean, I've never even heard of some of these movies.
These sound like a lot of straight to whatever, VOD.
And then VHS Viral came out right towards the end of 2014.
I can't separate any of those movies in my head. I can remember the stories from the ones that I like, but I can't tell you which one they're from.
I think VHS Viral is like the only one that I like literally can't remember anything about.
The only one I remember is the one where it's like the glitch monster. That's the only one that I liked.
That was I remember that one. That was cool. The cult one was cool.
Where it's like birthing the devil or whatever.
Yeah, that's in VHS too. That whole sequence is fucking so cool.
You know what? Maybe Viral I don't really remember either.
And then the last found footage film of 2014, the kiss of shit. The Pyramid. Dear God.
Oh, God. I saw that
movie.
This movie is absolute utter dog shit.
I got a free copy of that movie to write about, and I was like, nope, no thank you. No thank you for that.
Poor Dennis O'Hare couldn't make that transition to the big screen, so you should probably just stay on American Horror Story.
Yeah, pretty much.
So yeah, 2014 seemed to be a year of really... like you were saying, Jess, like that seems to have been peak found footage.
Yeah, that was like right peak found footage, and right before we hit like this really awesome indie horror boom we've been in for the last couple of years, because that I think everybody was just so fucking tired of it. It's just like we're done. We need to do something else.
Like in 2017, we had 3 found footage. In 2016, we had like 7 or 8. So, it's not 21 is what I'm saying. And in 2015, it was kind of slowing down. But yeah, 21 is a lot.
That's too many. Yeah. And like the fact that I've heard of or seen most of those movies is insane.
Well, because they were all just like, I think a majority of them all were like hitting Netflix and variety streaming things where it was just like, okay, watch it because it's there.
Yeah. Yeah. Just like straight to VOD or streaming or whatever. And you're just like, oh, that's a new thing that I haven't seen. Like, I'll just, whatever. I can rent it for $5. I'll watch it.
Netflix has become the great disseminator of found footage movies. You can go on Netflix right now and watch like most of those movies.
Yeah, I think that's where I watched most of those movies to begin with.
You can go watch Jerusalem on there as well. Oh, fucking Christ! And that's the thing. And this is something we've talked about, Jess. Found footage is kind of a dirty word in the horror kind of community because everyone's just like, yeah, found footage fucking sucks. Yeah.
Well, now it's funny. I'm seeing it kind of come back around, though, because it's been out of everybody's kind of like, because that was the case for so long. And now it's been so long since we've been inundated with them that every like little one that comes out here and there, everybody jumps on and is like, that's not so bad for a found footage movie. Like, that seems to kind of be the latest ones that I can think of are the Hell House LLC movies. Yeah.
Oh boy. I can't. Okay, you guys can shit on it all you like. I'm not going to shit on it because Stephen Cognetti was super nice with me.
No, you know what?
Even though he knew Eric was going to not like his movie.
You know what? There are parts of Hell House LLC that I do enjoy and that I was going, you know what? It's not bad for a found footage movie. Overall, and the second one where I was, my issue with the first one was like, okay, I need a little more explanation on something. And then the second one happened and I was like, okay, I didn't need that much explanation on anything.
But you don't like an exposition dump in the last 10 minutes of a movie?
Nah, I try to avoid it at all costs.
Well, this movie, The Taking of Deborah-Logan, just decided to do it in 2 seconds, so...
Yeah. So I'm looking up 2014 horror movies because I was like, there has to be better ones, obviously. So, just as a little bit of a recommendation for movies you should see from 2014, Starry Eyes.
Oh, that movie's amazing.
Movie. Not a found footage movie, fantastic movie. It Follows, I'm a big fan of.
Oh, yep. I know that Chris is not a big fan.
That's fair. It is a very divisive movie.
It Follows, The Witch, The Babadook, all fall into the same overhyped indie horror movie trope thing that's been going around for a while that I'm not... I won't say Don't Breathe because I know how much Eric loves that movie.
I will fight you for that movie.
But that movie's not also not a horror movie, so there you go.
Which movie?
Don't Breathe.
Don't Breathe. Oh, okay. Yeah, that's... It's interesting.
Look at that.
Oh man.
Eric. That last scene with the turkey baster, I was just like, I don't know. I don't think I can just...
Oh man. I mean, I don't know. There's it makes me squeamish. Like I can only imagine how it would make other people feel.
A Girl Walks Home Alone at Night was one of my favorite movies from 2014, which is
also fantastic.
Like horror adjacent is probably a better way of describing it than just straight horror. But
yeah, I mean, she's a vampire, so I would count it as a horror movie. So yeah,
just like Don't Breathe, horror adjacent.
I mean, I don't know. Don't Breathe is more horrific than a lot of movies that I've seen that would call themselves horror movies.
Well, I mean, it's home invasion. So I mean, Chris, do you count home invasion as not horror?
I mean, how many home invasion found footage movies exist, or how many home invasion movies come close to horror?
The Strangers.
The Strangers. That's a home invasion movie, but that's like a full-on horror movie.
Yeah. Yep. The Strangers is, but it's also because it's also kind of a slasher movie.
Ooh, Hush.
But that's Flanagan, right?
That's kind of also, I mean, I think I don't know. It depends on how you shoot it, I think. Like, Hush has a lot of horror sensibilities, but so does Don't Breathe. Like, there's a lot of, like, horror shots in there.
Atmosphere, lighting.
Like the
score.
music, the setup. Yeah, everything is like, you can shoot it as like a thriller.
And technically, Don't Breathe could kind of fall under the slasher trope because he is, you're trapped in this one area with this seemingly, unstoppable character, and he's picking you off one by one. So that does fit and it does have the final girl at the end too. So
it has a small but I think effective kill count in that movie.
What about
I would agree.
Blair Witch from 2016?
Ooh, wow.
Found footage horror and it's fighting.
Holy, too many drone shots, Batman.
Oh, God.
I'm going to give that movie props for one thing, and that is the sound design. The sound design in that movie
is fair.
Some of the best sound design I've ever heard, and watching it in the theater with it being fucking loud and everything like surrounding you and everything was awesome.
I'm going to get credit for making the Blair Witch about aliens.
Is it aliens?
I think so.
I think we had this conversation, Eric, and you refused to believe me, but
I don't think it's aliens.
I've seen that movie 2 or 3 times now, and it's totally aliens.
I haven't. I've seen it. I saw it in the theater, and then I was like, well, I'm good.
I mean, because it's not a good movie, and it's
boring. It's just boring. And that's the problem with with a majority of found footage movies is that they just skirt the line of everyday life and boring. It's like, yeah, guys, guess what? Everyday life is boring. That's why we have movies and we have TV shows and books with all this crazy shit happening in them because that's what makes life interesting.
But this could happen to you.
Adam Wingard.
Will never.
He's him and Simon Barrett, his writing partner, have been given the keys to do an American remake of one of my favorite Korean movies, I Saw the Devil.
Oh, really? Wow.
And I can only imagine what it's going to be like.
I can only imagine how good that Death Note movie was. It's probably going to be just as good as that movie.
Oh man. But no fan of any Adam Wingard movie?
I mean, the VHS stuff is cool. What else did he do besides
Your
VHS?
Next?
Your Next was fun.
Oh, Your Next is fucking badass. I love Your Next.
The Guest.
The Guest is great. I love The Guest, and I love Your Next.
I like Dan Stevens, but that's just because he played the Beast in Beauty and the Beast.
That's fair.
He did.
And he was,
I mean, that movie is good, but I'm not sure it's because it's an
chubby.
Adam Wingard movie that it's good.
Oh, I just watched The Apostle, which he is in, which is on Netflix, which is good-ish.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he's good in it.
Is it long?
It's long.
It seems like it feels, that's what I was going to...
long. It's about 20 minutes longer than it needs to be, and I think it suffers from, like, showing you the thing that it shouldn't show you too soon. So it's like one of those things you're like, oh, well, now I know what that is, so what are you going to do with the movie? And then it, like, has this thing where it has, like, a climax, and then it sort of drops off, and then it climaxes again. And it's
so what you're saying is it's like the opposite of what made The Ritual good.
Oh, okay. Whereas just there's like, I see what you mean. There's
they don't show
too
you
much
anything
happening
until the last 2 seconds of the movie.
And then you're like, what the fuck is that?
I want more of that end. Great.
Yeah, because The Ritual is awesome.
It's fantastic. Easily in my top 5 of 2018.
Did that movie come out this year?
God. It did.
Right at the beginning of the year. Like,
I
I think like in February.
It's October right now.
I know. I don't.
It's October and all the streaming like things throw on at least, 10 movies each a week. So between Netflix, Shudder, Amazon, and Hulu, I don't watch anything.
Good, okay, and a complete and utter turd mixed bag. I think, AKA Amazon Prime.
Yeah, that's the one that's kind of on hold right now.
I've lost definitely the past month of my life to just continually watching Mandy over and over again. So like my brain is sort of in this weird like psychedelic dream state of Nicolas Cage-dom where I just don't know what's going on.
That's a good state to be in, though.
But yeah, I'm okay with it. I'm totally
and there was a Hellraiser movie that came out this year on top of everything else?
Definitely didn't watch that.
Did not see that.
I heard it has a really, the most disturbing scene in any Hellraiser movie, which I think is a feat.
I feel like whoever said that is exaggerating, but...
I think they
It
might
does have
have
Heather
to, like,
Langenkamp in it, though, so that's fun.
I will see it at Heather Langenkamp's in it? That's interesting.
Yeah.
I will see it at some point because I own and have seen all of those movies at least 3 times, but except for the Revelations one, because I don't count that because it's just some man dressed up as Pinhead as a Halloween costume.
Literally just some guy in a Pinhead costume.
Yep.
You're not even exaggerating. It's just some fucking guy.
Yes. It is. Oh my! Have you never seen it? It is like
no, I haven't seen past the second one. Honestly, the first 2 are so good that I'm just like I can't watch the rest of the 17 other ones.
I mean, they all have their charm here and there, but no, Revelations is the only one without Doug Bradley, aside from this newest one. But up until then, was the only one without Doug Bradley. And it's some dude, just some guy who looks like he's like Pinhead, but about 20 pounds puffier than Pinhead. Oof. And just wearing like the cheesiest latex costume you've ever seen. And pretty much what looks like rubber like pins like sticking out of his face. It just looks like, some bro went to a frat party dressed as Pinhead.
Well, and the thing is we were complaining about Michael Myers getting the short end of the stick. Pinhead has really gotten the shortest of the short end of the stick.
Oh, he has.
Really. I
mean, the amount of the time that he appears in those movies decreases just steadily throughout each sequel. Or I think it's Bloodline, where I think it's Bloodline or Hell on Earth, where he doesn't even show up in the movie until like the last 10 minutes. Or up until then, it's just whatever bullshit plot. Because the thing is with the majority of the Hellraiser movies is that after probably the 3rd one, a majority of them were just horror scripts or horror thriller scripts that they decided, like Dimension, whoever, decided to shoehorn Hellraiser elements into.
Oh, no.
So it's like the original Cloverfield.
Right.
Oh, no.
Where it's just like,
burn.
It's where it's just, here's a movie that is really not very good to begin with. Let's just put some Pinhead and Cenobite elements into it. The only movie that would have ever worked in was Event Horizon, which was supposed to be a Hellraiser movie to begin with. And then they decided not to do it. And that would have been the actual one that worked.
But you know what? I still love Event Horizon. It's still amazing, but it's definitely a Hellraiser in space ripoff.
There is a Hellraiser
whenever
in space.
you try to explain it to anyone, that's always what it comes out as.
It's Hellraiser in space, and they're like, oh, that sounds awesome. And you're like, you're right. It is awesome. Plus, Sam Neill is in it, and he kicks ass.
And then he gouges his eyes out.
And Morpheus is in it.
That whole movie's just amazing. Definitely a better movie than Taking of Deborah-Logan.
And it's really sad that we'll never get to see the unrated cut of Event Horizon. However, thankfully there is no unrated cut of Taking of Deborah-Logan because it is a bad movie and doesn't deserve an unrated cut because it left everything on screen, and if that's all it's got, well, congratulations.
I mean, unless there was like 2 snake monsters in the unrated cut, then I would watch it.
That's for the sequel.
Oh, yes. Coming soon after Escape Room, Adam Robitel's sequel to The Taking of Deborah-Logan. So, Jess, what would you give The Taking of Deborah-Logan out of 5?
1.
Oh, no love.
No
love. It is boring. It's boring, and that is the biggest crime you can be, If you're a movie and you're not a very good movie, at least make me laugh or something along the way. But like I said, half of this movie I felt like I missed something and that I evidently didn't, and that makes it even worse. So, nope, 1 star.
What about you, Eric?
Yeah, God, I want to be nicer to this movie because I suggested it, but at this point I'm just like, maybe, I don't know. Yeah, I'm gonna give it 1.5. It's gonna have a little extra juice in it for style points for the snake monster scene, which I legitimately think is hilarious and awesome. And it had a cool premise until we found out what the actual premise was. So I guess that means that Alzheimer's possession potential found footage movie is still on the table since this movie didn't really follow through with that?
Yeah, so if somebody out there who is interested in making a found footage movie that tackles some type of illness, you still have that option, and this would be a good one because Alzheimer's can really affect you in a really horrifying way.
Yeah, and not turn you into a snake monster, or so I've been told.
Yeah, I mean, you don't know.
That's right. I don't. You're completely right. Yeah, I'm going to give this movie a 1. It's not good. It's just not good. It's a movie that it has a really, like y'all have been saying, it has a really exciting premise, and it completely squanders it, and it squanders the time and effort of fake Lynn Shay and Jill Larson, and those are the only two people that end up really mattering in the movie, so much so that we don't get a character wrap-up for the other two characters that are in the movie.
No.
And so
I think our discussion, too, about just 2014 and the sheer oversaturation of found footage movies like during that time period is very telling as to like the era that this movie was even from and maybe why it was like regarded the way that it was when it came out. It definitely has not aged well.
No. And you know,
it came out 4 years ago.
Yeah.
Which is, it seems like so long ago. Like 4 years ago, when you say 2014, it sounds so much farther away. The world was so much different then, but
it was a simpler time.
A time where we had 21 shitty found footage horror movies in 1 year, and we all were like,
and we all saw them all.
Paranormal Activity fucking stuff.
And we kept seeing them, which probably attributed to why there were so many of them.
Yeah, I kept watching them. God damn it.
Yeah, you have watched a lot of them, haven't you?
I watched a lot of those.
Oh, dear God.
I've seen them all. I like the first two. Unabashedly, I don't give a shit. The first two are great. After that, though, they couldn't hold it together. They couldn't, they couldn't figure it the fuck out.
Well, and I think the world's better for that because I'm sure we're going to get a Paranormal Activity reboot. If they can reboot Pirates of the Caribbean, they can reboot Paranormal Activities.
They rebooted Pirates of the Caribbean?
Wow.
Well, that's what Disney said they wanted to do today, so... The cinematic classic Pirates of the Caribbean.
Reboot it without Johnny Depp because he's too drunk for them now? I don't.
He's too toxic of an actor that we just now found this out of.
Yes, that hasn't been written on the walls for years, but
yeah, he had to beat up Amber Heard for everyone to find out.
Oh, okay.
Oh man,
he beat whatever acting talent was left out of Amber Heard.
Oh no.
Because she has none. Okay?
Oh no, she's terrible. She's awful.
I was gonna say that it was retaliation for when she beat the life out of John Carpenter's career in The Ward.
So we were pretty much on the same page. I just decided to go even bluer than you did.
God, I feel bad.
Fantastic.
No, I'm sure she's a nice person. I don't know. Just I do not condone the beating of any women unless they're children.
Right. Unless they're children being taken by snake monsters.
Yes, being snake monsters. Then you got to beat the devil out of that child.
So we're going to take another break, and we'll play a preview for the next Culture Cast.
Testing 1, 2, 3. We're on.
We're here to investigate a patient that killed 3 innocent teenagers on a Halloween in 1978. He was shot by his own psychiatrist and taken into custody that night, and has spent the last 40 years in captivity. Hello, Michael. I have something you might like to see.
Everyone in my family turns into a nutcase this time of year. Yeah, I mean, your grandmother is Laurie Strode. She was almost murdered.
Wasn't it her brother who murdered all those babysitters?
No, it was not her brother. That's something that people made up.
Do you know that I pray every night that he would escape?
What the hell did you do that for?
So I can kill him.
Dad, look out!
The bus crashed.
Mom, what bus crash?
Michael escaped.
Excuse me, somebody's in here.
Hello?
He's waited for this night. He's waited for me. I've waited for him.
Get out! Go home! Get inside!
You don't believe in the boogeyman?
He's here!
Michael! You should.
Can you close the closet door?
That's right. On the next Culture Cast, we're going to be talking about Halloween 2018 because now we have to kind of delineate between the two. It's not just Halloween anymore. It's Halloween 2018.
Well, we had to do that before. People always just forget about that Rob Zombie one because I guess they just call it Rob
Zombie's
Halloween.
Halloween.
Yeah.
Now this is comedy director who doesn't know how to make a horror movies Halloween.
Oh God, it's begun.
We're already going for it. The podcast hasn't even started yet. Oh, God. But until then, where can people find you, Jess?
So I am on Twitter. You can follow me at writer Jess Byard. You can find me on Instagram at the same handle if you want to see obscene amounts of my cats. And I'm on Facebook, too, Jess Byard. I usually accept friend requests unless you appear creepy. Yeah, that's about it.
I think most people on Facebook are just creepy in general.
That's kind of, yeah, I mean, like, I just look and see who the mutual friends are. There's generally some in there, and I delineate by that.
Well, and thank God you accepted my friend request, so I must not be that creepy, but I am friends with Mike White, so...
Well, I was on both of your podcasts, so clearly you're my kind of creepy.
Yeah, that's true. We're all creeps here.
Speak for yourself.
well, no one can find you on the internet, Eric, so...
Nope, I'm such a creep, I'm not even on the fucking internet, so...
That's fair.
If you want to find me, you gotta creep on me in real life. And then,
which you totally should.
Yeah.
Now that you've opened this box, I think we should really take it to the next level.
God, I regret everything. Don't creep on me in real life.
I'll give you his address. It's no, I'm just kidding. I know your old address, but I don't know your current.
You can give him my old address. I hate my old landlord. He can deal with all these weird people.
Old house and be like, "Where's Eric? Oh, he's not here."
Oh God. All the sweaty neck beard.
Somebody makes a found footage movie.
Yeah, of you. They're
called Where's
creeping
Eric?
Into your house at night.
Oh my God!
The taking of Ericness.
Oh no!
And
just take me gently,
would you
please.
Fight being swallowed by a snake monster? We just kind of let it happen.
I think he'd be happy to go that way.
Yeah, I think as far as like ways to go, it's not the worst. Yeah,
much more interesting.
Before I plug my Twitter, what was going on with the snake monster to begin with?
I don't know. I still don't really understand that. I guess we never really explained it to anybody. But
well, because it was
just
fifth,
that weird man.
She was the fifth child that needed to be sacrificed.
No, but the fifth woman to die was the cop.
But she wasn't like pure.
Yeah, she wasn't like the child. They were all kids.
But
they were all children.
But how was she possessed then at the end of the movie? They just broke their own rules?
Probably.
I don't think there were any rules. I think they just went full Wild West.
Okay, well, I fucking hate this movie. So you can follow me on Twitter at Culture Stash. You can follow the podcast on Twitter at CultureCast, and you can check us out on the internet at www.culturecast.com. I don't know why I said www because, Jesus Christ, people use the internet now in this day and age.
HTTP //
I hate you so much. You can find links over to iTunes where you can rate and review the show, and to Patreon if you want to give us some money. I'm not saying you should, but if you want to, cool.
I am saying that you should give us money. So
right. Support the Ericness getting swallowed by a snake fund. We need to find a snake large enough for him to get swallowed by.
Oh, man.
Big thanks to Eric for the intro outro music, and to Jess for taking time out of her busy schedule to stop winning awards and talk about shitty movies with us.
Absolutely, anytime.
And we'll catch you on the next Culture Cast.